The sun rose over the East African savanna, spilling gold across a land older than memory itself. Grass shimmered in waves, the scent of dust and wild sage carried by a soft wind. Herds moved slowly toward distant waterholes. Birds spiraled high above the acacias, and the first cicadas began their endless song. It was another morning in the Mara, beautiful, endless, and cruel. Among the rust-colored rocks near the river lay a scene of heartbreak. A small elephant calf, barely a year old, wandered aimlessly through the grass. His ears drooped, trunk dragging behind him, steps uneven from exhaustion. Each call he made, thin, trembling, filled with need, vanished unanswered into the empty horizon. His name, later given by rescuers, would be Tembo, meaning the little one who endures. He had once walked beside his mother through these same plains. He remembered the sound of her heartbeat when he pressed against her leg, the cool shade of her shadow during the noon heat. But 3 nights ago, that world had ended. Poachers had struck under the cover of rain, engines in the dark, the crack of rifles, the chaos of trumpets and screams. By dawn, the herd was gone, scattered. His mother lay silent beside the riverbank, her tusks stolen, her body left to vultures and silence. Tembo had stayed for a day and a night, nudging her lifeless side, crying until his voice broke. When the hyenas came, he ran. Since then, he had been wandering, searching for her scent, her shape, any sign that the world could still make sense. The savannah does not stop for grief. By the 3rd morning, Tembo's legs trembled with every step. His ribs showed through his thin hide. His eyes dulled. He reached a watering hole, but even drinking was hard. His trunk shook, splashing mud instead of water. He whimpered softly, folding his legs beneath him. Far off, beyond the thorn bushes, a pair of amber eyes watched. A giraffe, tall and slender, moved quietly from the trees. Her name, known to rangers who tracked her herd, was Nuru, light. She was young for a giraffe, barely 5 years old, curious about everything. While others stayed near the acacias, she often wandered alone, gazing at strange shapes and sounds across the plains. That morning, something about the still figure by the water drew her closer. She stepped forward slowly, her long neck swaying with each graceful stride. The calf lifted his head weakly, ears flaring. He saw her, towering, unfamiliar, shimmering against the sunlight. He let out a frightened trumpet, stumbling backward into the mud. Nuru froze, lowering her head slightly, nostrils flaring. She didn't move again until the calf stopped shaking. Then she took one slow step closer, then another. Tembo's heart pounded. The scent that reached him wasn't the sharp musk of a predator. It was grass, dust, and warmth, the smell of safety. The giraffe extended her muzzle, almost touching him, then paused. The calf reached up with his small trunk, trembling, and brushed her leg. Something unspoken passed between them. A moment that didn't belong to fear or instinct. Nuru blinked slowly, then let out a low, rumbling breath. Tembo stepped closer. From that moment, they were no longer alone. Over the following days, an unlikely bond grew across the endless plains. Where Tembo walked, Nuru followed, always a silent sentinel in the background, her shadow stretching over him like a tree. When he slept, she stood beside him, scanning the horizon. When he called for his mother, she leaned down, her breath brushing his back, grounding him in quiet presence. Rangers who later observed them couldn't believe what they saw. A giraffe guarding an elephant calf was unheard of. Yet every morning, there they were, together. Nuru led him to new watering holes, nudged him away from hidden ravines, even knocked down branches heavy with fruit so he could eat. Tembo followed her everywhere, his small steps matching the rhythm of her long stride. At night, when the plains turned silver under moonlight, the pair would rest beneath the same acacia tree. Hyenas sometimes circled from a distance, but they never dared come closer. One swing of Nuru's legs could break bones, and so, for a brief time, the wild itself seemed to hold its breath, as if protecting the fragile bond it had created. On the fifth night, the peace shattered. A thunderstorm swept across the Mara, rolling in with the fury of the gods. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the plains in flashes of white. Rain fell in torrents, drenching the ground, turning dust to rivers. Tembo panicked. The sound of thunder was too much like gunfire. He bolted through the grass, trumpeting in terror. Nuru followed, long legs cutting through the storm. When he stumbled into a ravine, she knelt beside him, lowering her neck, curling her body around him to block the rain. He pressed against her chest, trembling, eyes squeezed shut. For hours they stayed that way. A small elephant calf sheltered beneath the vast, bending neck of a giraffe. When the storm finally passed, dawn broke clear and bright. Water pooled in every hollow. The air washed clean. Tembo lifted his head, blinking. Nuru stood over him, dripping with rain. Her eyes soft, he rumbled low, the first peaceful sound he'd made in days. Far from the valley, reports of a lone elephant calf began to spread among the rangers of Amboseli Wildlife Rescue Unit. They feared he wouldn't survive much longer. Two rescuers, Emma Hart and Daniel Cross, set out at sunrise to find him. They followed tracks for hours, the sun baking their backs, until Daniel spotted something through his binoculars. "Hold on," he murmured. "You're not going to believe this." In the distance stood a giraffe and an elephant calf, moving together as though they'd always belonged. Emma exhaled. "She's protecting him." They approached slowly, their vehicle rumbling softly across the grass. Nuru lifted her head immediately, nostrils flaring, eyes fixed on them. Tembo squeaked, running behind her legs. "Careful," Daniel whispered. "If she thinks we're a threat, she'll charge." Emma stepped out first, palms raised. "It's all right, girl," she said softly. "We're here to help." The giraffe didn't move. The tension stretched like wire between them. Then, astonishingly, Nuru took a slow step back. She nudged Tembo forward with her leg, a clear, deliberate gesture. "She's giving him to us," Emma whispered. Daniel swallowed hard. "I've never seen anything like that." The rescuers worked quickly. They fitted Tembo with a soft harness and lifted him carefully onto a padded trailer. The calf cried, reaching his trunk through the bars toward Nuru. She leaned down, pressing her muzzle gently against the metal, her breath warm and steady. For a long, silent moment, the world seemed to hold still, as if even the wind refused to break it. Emma placed a hand over her heart. "We'll take care of him. I promise." Nuru blinked once, stepped back, and turned toward the horizon. With slow, graceful strides, she disappeared into the golden light. At the elephant orphanage, Tembo arrived weak, dehydrated, and terrified. But he was alive. The staff fed him milk from a bottle every 2 hours, rubbed his back to comfort him, and stayed by his side through the nights. Yet something inside him remained restless. He often stood at the fence, staring out at the distant hills, trunk swaying in slow, lonely arcs. He refused food unless one of the keepers hummed softly, the same sound Nuru made in the wind. Emma visited every week. She brought him fresh acacia branches, the kind Nuru liked to eat, and watched as he smelled them, rumbling softly as though remembering her. "He misses her," she said quietly to Daniel. "Maybe some bonds never break," he replied. Months passed. Tembo grew stronger, his eyes brighter, his steps surer. He began playing with other calves, splashing in puddles, trumpeting in joy. But every sunset, he still wandered to the fence, gazing toward the distant acacias. Then one dawn, everything changed. Rangers at the sanctuary reported strange movement near the perimeter. A tall figure moving with calm, deliberate grace. Emma rushed outside and froze. There, silhouetted against the sunrise, stood Nuru. She was bigger now, her coat golden in the light, her neck bending elegantly toward the fence. Tembo, seeing her, let out a trumpet so loud it startled the other elephants. He ran full speed, ears flapping, dust rising behind him. He pressed his trunk through the fence, reaching for her. Nuru leaned down, touching him with her muzzle. A reunion so tender that even the rangers fell silent. Emma's eyes filled with tears. She came back, she whispered. Nuru stayed by the fence for hours, watching Tembo play, sometimes walking the perimeter as if guarding him once more. When the sun began to set, she finally turned away, glancing back one last time before disappearing into the fading light. Years rolled by. Tembo grew into a powerful bull, wise and gentle, leading the rescued herd across the sanctuary. He no longer cried at night, no longer searched the fence, but at dusk, he often wandered to the acacia ridge and stood there, watching the horizon, waiting. One evening, as Emma watched from the tower, the light dimmed into purple and gold. Tembo raised his trunk, releasing a low rumble that rolled across the plain, deep, resonant, filled with something ancient and calm. Far away, faint but clear, came another sound. The soft rustle of long legs moving through grass, and the whispering call of a giraffe. Emma smiled through tears. She's still watching him. The camera of a nearby researcher captured the image. An adult elephant standing in twilight, head lifted toward a distant giraffe on the ridge. Two silhouettes, one massive, one slender, connected by the silent thread of trust. And that's the story of Tembo, the orphaned elephant, and Nuru, the giraffe who became his guardian. In a land shaped by survival, they found something rarer than safety. They found family. In the wild, love takes many forms. A trunk brushing a leg, a shadow that follows, a promise that endures beyond time. If this story touched your heart, leave a comment, share it, and subscribe for more. Till next time, remember, kindness doesn't speak one language, and sometimes the wild itself writes the most human stories of all.